This whole story would go back to the end of the Tournament of Power. But there would be a big difference, because this time Universe 7 would be the loser of the final battle. This, unfortunately, would mean that Goku and the others would have to be wiped out of existence. However, Zeno Sama did not feel entirely comfortable with that decision, because he liked Goku very much and considered him as a friend. But on the other hand, he had to respect his decision as king of the whole and respect the rules of the Tournament of Power. That's why he came up with a better idea, which was to have Goku reborn, so that he could change the destiny of his universe when the Tournament of Power came again. Very well, the time has come for the final judgment. Universe 7 will be eliminated at this moment. Once the High Priest had said that, the two Zeno Samas would raise their hands in order to erase the universe completely. The members of Universe 7 would be watching as their end approached, accepting their fate as the warriors they were. So long, Goku. I'm sure we'll see each other again. Those words had confused Goku a little, as he did not quite understand what Zeno Sama was trying to tell him. But he wouldn't have time to ask, because after what Zeno Sama had said, he would finally unleash his power, making every member of Universe 7 disappear. Although, he had actually sent Goku back to the beginning of his story so that he would be reborn and have a second chance to better prepare his universe this time. In that way, the warrior known as Son Goku would be reborn in the flames, having a new opportunity to prepare for what was to come. But this time, there would be a big difference, as his powers would also be restored along with his memories. However, despite being reborn, he would not become conscious until the moment he was sent into space by his parents. At first, everything was silent, but little by little, he would begin to open his eyes to see around him. He would realize that he was in a ship, which was taking him to Earth, just as it had happened in the original story. This was because he had been sent to the instant that the events of the end of his race were taking place. That is, the last battle of his father. Bardock at that moment was defending the planet with all his remaining strength, as he did not plan to fall without opposing the tyrant of the fraternity. However, he would end up falling once again in battle, since he had not been able to fight against the great power of Frieza. But at least he could live with the idea that his children had managed to survive, which would give him some joy before his death. And in that way, the planet of the Saiyans would once again be destroyed, generating a great ripple in space. Meanwhile, Goku would find himself processing everything that was happening, since he still didn't understand why he was on the ship. He was supposed to have disappeared during the Tournament of Power. But besides that, he also didn't understand why he felt the same powers in his body, even though he was small again. What does it all mean? Why am I in this state? The only thing that Goku could think of at that moment were the words of Zeno Sama, since he had told him that they would see each other again, which was impossible, since he was supposed to disappear from existence. Because of all that, Goku could only come to one conclusion about what was going on. Zeno Sama had returned him back to the past. It can't be! Did he really send me back? Is this what Zeno Sama meant when he said those last words to me? Goku wondered as he processed what it all meant. If Zeno Sama did that, maybe it's because he wanted to give me another chance. But why did he only send me back? I have a lot of doubts, and I'm not really that much of a thinker. This is confusing me a lot. Goku was a little bit overwhelmed by the doubts he had, because he didn't understand several things about the situation. For the moment, he could only see how the ship was still traveling through space, which was quite familiar to him. So, that means that I'm on the ship I came to Earth with. How interesting. I didn't remember that as an adult. At this moment, I don't think I can count on my friends, much less the gods, because at this time, we didn't even know of their existence, and I doubt they would even agree to help me. I guess I'm on my own for now. I just have to keep going until I get to the Tournament of Power. Even though I have my powers with me, I shouldn't release them all at once. I should get used to my new body before I do something like this. While Goku was thinking about what he had just said, he also realized that with his current strength, he could change several things about the battles he would have, which could change the story we know. I think fighting with my current strength is fine, as long as it doesn't interfere too much with some things, since I wouldn't want to cause a disaster like when Trunks traveled to the past. Well, I guess I'll think about that later. For now, I must get to Earth. On the one hand, Goku felt a lot of uncertainty about what was ahead of him and how he should handle it. But there was one thing that made him glad about all this, and that was he would be able to see his grandfather again, who had been in charge of raising him since he arrived on Earth. After all these thoughts, Goku was ready to rest in the ship, waiting quietly for the ship to take him to Earth. A few days had already passed, and the ship would be quite close to reaching its destination, so Goku would start to wake up from the turbulence of the landing. It didn't take long for him to crash into the Earth, where he would be found by his grandfather Gohan, just as it had happened originally. Goku didn't hesitate to hug him as soon as he could get out of the ship, being quite happy to see him again. Grandpa Gohan didn't expect such a reaction from that unknown boy, but to tell the truth, he liked his attitude. Wow, what a nice boy. Grandpa Gohan would notice that Goku had a tail, which indicated that he was not quite normal. Since there was no one in the mountain, he decided to adopt him in order to raise him as his own son. In all of this, Goku couldn't help but remember something important at that moment, and that was that he had originally killed his grandfather when he transformed that night. That was something he couldn't let happen, since he really appreciated his grandfather's company. I wonder if it'll be okay if I changed an event like that. If Zeno Sama made me reborn, I don't think it's just to repeat my story. I'm sure he wanted more than that. Goku thought to himself as he stood beside his grandfather. Soon after, Gohan would take Goku to his home in order to show him where he would live from now on. From this point on, Goku would be taken to his grandfather Gohan, who would also be in charge of training him again. Because Goku possessed all the powers he had obtained until the Tournament of Power, he would stand out a lot during the training with grandfather Gohan, who would be amazed by the great potential he had. Although Grandpa's training was not so much for Goku, it helped his body get used to the power of his transformations, since after all, he had just been reborn. In just a few months of training, he would be able to unleash the full power of his Super Saiyan forms, something that would only surprise his grandfather Gohan even more. It was truly incredible that someone so young could have so much power, and for that reason, his grandfather was proud to be able to continue instructing little Goku, and to see what else he would be capable of. To tell the truth, Goku was quite happy to be able to show this to his grandfather, since due to his death, he had not been able to show him how far he could go. The months would continue to pass, and during that time, the transformations were not the only thing that Goku put into practice, but he had also done the same with his techniques in order to see if he still had mastered everything he had learned. And as expected, he was able to make use of all his skills without losing any kind of advantage. But he wasn't just using the time to test his strength, he was using the time to master the skills he needed. Among all that, there was the Ultra Instinct, a state he had not been able to awaken since that Tournament of Power. He was sure that if he could master it, the outcome of that tournament could be different, and they could take the victory again. For that reason, he would ask Grandpa Gohan to help him train his mind more, since after all, he still had more experience than Goku. It should be noted that Goku had not yet confessed to him about his rebirth, since he did not know how to tell his grandfather about it. Anyway, he would agree to help Goku, since the more time passed, the more he grew fond of him. Although, when it came to training, his grandfather would be very demanding with Goku, as long as he had the best performance and discipline, since he didn't want him to be confident just because he was powerful. That way, Goku would spend his time training the state of Ultra Instinct with his grandfather, at least until he was 12 years old. During that time, he had achieved a better command of that state, although he had not yet fully mastered it, but at least he could manifest the incomplete form. But the most important thing was that he had avoided the death of his grandfather, since this time he had not transformed into his giant monkey form. Right now, Goku was the same age he started his adventure years ago, so he was ready for what was to come. On one of those days, while Goku was carrying a big fish home, he would end up meeting Bulma, just like in the original story. This time, he would have no problem stopping Bulma's car, as his strength was far superior to what he had originally. She would be surprised by the strength he had. She had never seen anything like it before. Goku was happy to see his friend again, because to tell the truth, he sometimes thought about his comrades, hoping to meet them again. "You come from the city, right?" Goku asked while looking at Bulma. "That's right, I was just passing by, but I didn't expect a kid to destroy my car." "Well, while you're deciding what you're going to do, maybe you can accompany me to my home to eat this big fish," said Goku while looking hungry. "I guess that would be no problem. That way it gives me time to rest from the big trip." Once they had finished talking, Goku would take Bulma to his home, where they would meet his grandfather, who was taking care of the 4-star sphere. Bulma would turn her attention to the Dragon Sphere, being surprised that it was in a place like that. "I didn't think I would end up coming across another one of the magical spheres in this place. How convenient." "Do you even know what those spheres are capable of?" asked Grandpa Gohan as he looked at Bulma. "Of course I do. That's why I was looking for them during this trip. Tell me, wouldn't you be interested in collecting the Dragon Spheres?" Grandpa Gohan would give some thought to what Bulma had proposed, but would end up rejecting the offer. "The truth is, there's nothing I want from the spheres, so it's of no interest to me. But since it seems like a dangerous journey, Goku could accompany you. After all, he could learn various things about the world if he sets out." "Sure, I have no problem with that. I could sure use someone to protect me from those mountain creatures. I'll take care of everything, don't worry." With that said, Grandfather Gohan would give the 4-star sphere to Goku, as long as he would take it with him on the trip. "Try to be careful, and remember everything I taught you." "Of course I do, don't worry, Grandpa," said Goku, quite excited. Grandpa would say goodbye to Goku, hoping to see him again when he finished his journey. That way, Goku would embark again on his first adventure, and he was eager to move on to meet the rest of his companions and prepare for what was to come in the future. After Goku was reborn, he set out to begin his journey again with Bulma, who had invited him to search for the Dragon Spheres. At the beginning of the trip, things would not change much since he would spend the first 2 days with Bulma. But soon after, they would end up running into another acquaintance, the turtle from the Kame house, who would ask them to help her return to the sea. Goku was happy to see the turtle again, because little by little, he was finding his friends. But besides that, he knew very well who he would meet once they took the turtle to the sea, so he did not take long to accept the request and would carry the turtle to set off with Bulma. It would take them some time to get there, as Bulma couldn't keep up with Goku's great speed, not even with the vehicles he had. But once the turtle had reached the sea, he wanted to thank them for their help, so he swam out to bring the next acquaintance that Goku would meet. It was Master Roshi, who would come on top of the sea turtle. Upon seeing him, Goku couldn't help but get excited, as he had been training him for a long time. In fact, even during the Tournament of Power, Master Roshi had given Goku the key to awaken the power of Ultra Instinct. Come to think of it, maybe he's the key to mastering that state before the Tournament of Power, since he was the only one who could help me with it before I lost to Jiren, Goku thought as he stared at Master Roshi. To tell the truth, he didn't understand why Goku was staring at him so much, but from what the turtle had told him, he was the one who had helped him return to the sea, so he should thank him. "It is a pleasure to meet you. I really appreciate what you have done for my turtle. Let me introduce myself. Here, I am known as Master Roshi." As in the original story, he would give the flying cloud to Goku to reward him for what he had done for the turtle. Even though Goku didn't need the cloud, he appreciated having it back, as it had been a very important part of his journey. "Thank you very much. I'll be sure to take good care of the cloud." Goku would not hesitate to climb onto the flying cloud once he had received it, thus providing that he was pure of heart. But despite that, as Master Roshi watched Goku, he managed to feel a strong presence coming from him, which made him feel somewhat overwhelmed. "I don't know you very well, but I see that you are a young man with potential in battle. So, if at any time you need help in training, don't hesitate to come to me." "Sure, I'll keep that in mind. Thank you very much for that." On the other hand, while they were chatting, Bulma would notice the necklace that Master Roshi was wearing, because it had a dragon sphere on it. For that very reason, she would ask him to give it to her, since she needed it to be able to put them all together. At first, Master Roshi was not convinced, but due to Bulma's constant insistence, he would end up agreeing. Once they had finished talking to Master Roshi, he would leave with his turtle, so Goku and Bulma would resume their journey again. It should be noted that at this point in the story, Pilaf's team was also searching for the spheres, although they had not yet encountered them directly. In the middle of the search for the dragon spheres, Goku and Bulma would end up arriving at a village, where they would meet Oolong, just as it happened originally. Although this time, Goku would manage to solve the situation easily, due to his new strength and the knowledge he had about the past. That way, they would get another one of the dragon spheres. Things would get a little more interesting on their way when they ran into one of the future Z warriors, Yamcha. At that time, he was the desert bandit, so he was planning to steal from Goku and the others, as he was also interested in the dragon spheres. But clearly, Goku wouldn't allow that, and decided to fight him. Come to think of it, if Yamcha had kept training, maybe he would have been a good ally during the Tournament of Power. Maybe this is the chance for him to improve as a warrior. At least that's what I want to think. Goku thought while he was in combat position, in order to face Yamcha. Yamcha was a little confused, because Goku kept looking at him.
Don't think that because I'm a kid I'll have compassion. In this desert, only my rules are followed.
That's exactly what I expected. Goku had said that while giving a small smile, being somewhat excited to relive this little fight. Without further ado, Yamcha would dive forward in order to attack with his sword and try to cut Goku. However, that attack would be easy for Goku to avoid, as he could see his movements perfectly. Yamcha would be surprised by the ease with which they had avoided his attack. However, he would not give up so easily, so he would quickly try to cut him with his sword again. Even though Goku was able to avoid the attack, he decided to stop Yamcha's sword with his fingers in order to show what he was capable of. Yamcha was really puzzled to see that, since his sword had broken as if it was nothing. Because of that, he had to back off a bit, as he felt quite overwhelmed by Goku's strength.
I hope that's not all you have to attack with.
Yamcha would only remain silent for a moment, as long as he got into combat position, ready to use everything he had, since he now knew he couldn't underestimate the boy.
Of course not. Right now I'll show you what I'm capable of.
This time, Yamcha would approach quickly, but with some rather peculiar movements, which resembled those of a wolf. When he was close enough, he would launch several attacks in a row, creating a powerful combination of blows. But Goku would parry each of those attacks with his hands, once again demonstrating his great fighting ability. Yamcha would be annoyed that he was not strong enough to defeat his opponent, but he would not stop his attacks anyway.
Why don't you dare attack me? Do you think I'm that weak?
Yamcha asked as he continued to attack Goku with his constant blows.
I don't underestimate you. On the contrary, I think you have a very strong fighting spirit. Then prove it! Attack me once and for all!
Hearing Yamcha's strong words, Goku didn't hesitate to attack him. With a single blow, he would send him flying into the rocks. Clearly, Goku had held back so as not to hurt him too much, since after all, Yamcha was still his friend, or at least that's how he felt. After their brief fight, Goku would approach Yamcha, as long as he could talk to him. Although Yamcha was quite sore from the blow he had received, he would still be conscious, since Goku had not hit him with full force.
You know, you could be really strong if you take advantage of the training. It would be a waste for someone like you to give up just because of a defeat.
Despite his words, Yamcha was still somewhat annoyed, as well as shocked, because he didn't understand how a child had defeated him.
How could you beat me so easily? How much difference is there between our powers?
More than you might think, and I'll prove it to you so you can see that I'm not underestimating you. Suddenly, Goku began to release a great amount of power around him, making everything around him tremble, as his power was quite great. Once he finished gathering the energy, there would be a powerful flash on the spot, so Yamcha would not be able to see what was happening. Once the glow was dissipating, the imposing figure of Goku with blonde hair would show up. He had transformed into the Super Saiyan in order to show Yamcha that there were levels of power beyond his imagination. Yamcha was extremely astonished to witness Goku's power, for even though he was a child, he had quite terrifying power.
If you want to reach levels like this, you'll have to train hard, but I wonder if you're really willing to do it." Yamcha was intrigued by what he had been told, as he began to wonder if he could really become this powerful. Soon after, Yamcha would stand up, understanding that he should take his path as a fighter more seriously. However, he would not easily accept his defeat, so for the time being, he would go his own way. "I'll let it go this time. I have no chance of winning this time. But don't get me wrong, it won't be the only time we meet, because I will challenge you again when I get the chance, and take those spheres that you carry with you." Yamcha had said that last thing with firmness, as he didn't plan to let his pride be easily crushed by that boy. "I expected no less. We can fight as many times as necessary." After their brief encounter, Yamcha would retreat with his partner Puar, resuming his journey into the desert. Because he had retreated, Goku would have no need to continue transforming, so he would return to his basic form. I wonder if Yamcha really took what I said seriously. I'd like to see what he's capable of in the future. Now that they had finished dealing with Yamcha, Goku and the others would resume their journey to collect the Dragon Spheres. As in the original story, they would end up reaching the Burning Castle, which belonged to Ox Satan. Things wouldn't change much in this part of the story, other than it would be easier for Goku to extinguish the flames of the castle. But in any case, the most important events would remain, such as Goku meeting Milk, the search for Master Roshi so he could help them, and finally, Milk's promise of marriage. After that little adventure, they would have gotten another one of the spheres, having 6 of them in total. They would also end up running into the Rabbit Boss during their next stop, but it wouldn't be a problem for Goku, since it would be much easier for him to defeat it, so he would have the same fate as in the story. Besides that, Yamcha had been in charge of following them, because he was still interested in the Dragon Spheres, but he would keep out of everything that was happening. His next confrontation would be against the group of Pilaf, who would finally appear to take the Dragon Spheres. Because of that, Yamcha would end up joining them in that confrontation, since he also wanted the spheres and did not plan to let them steal them. They would be forced to use all their weaponry to try to defeat them. But despite that, Goku would still manage to easily destroy each of their machines, forcing them to retreat. In this way, they would take the last sphere they had, finally managing to gather the 7 Dragon Spheres. Now that they had obtained them all, what would be the wish they would make? After collecting the Dragon Sphere, Goku and the others had to make a wish in order to complete their journey. However, it seemed that at that moment, most of them did not want to ask the spheres for anything, because being together, they felt that they did not need anything else. In Bulma's case, she had sought the spheres to ask for a boyfriend, but now with Yamcha's presence in the team, she didn't feel the need to ask for someone else, since she was very interested in him. Yamcha also didn't need to resort to the spheres, since in a way, Bulma helped him overcome his fear of women. Because of that, Goku would be the one to make the wish, since they had to do it so that the spheres would not be stolen again and used for something bad. Goku would leave the spheres on the floor of the Great Desert where they were, and then he would speak to activate the spheres. "Come out, Shenlong, and grant me a wish!" With those simple words, the sky suddenly began to darken, and the spheres emitted a great flash, summoning the great dragon known as Shenlong. Its presence was imposing to all present, as they did not expect the dragon to emerge from the spheres. Goku was the only one who was unaffected by the dragon's presence, as he knew it very well from all the times he had seen it in the past. "How come you're not even a little bit scared of that creature?" "Let's just say I'm used to seeing things like this." "What do you mean by that?" "It's complicated to explain. You guys just trust me." While they had their brief chat, the dragon would address them to find out what they were looking for from him.
"Now tell me, what is your wish?"
At Shenlong's question, Goku would think a bit about what he might wish for, as he could not ask for something beyond the dragon's limitations, especially at that time where he had not been upgraded by Dendi. For that very reason, he would ask for something that would surely not be a problem for Shenlong, and would also be beneficial for the future. "Shenlong, I wish that the companions I have and the ones I will have may grow up safely to develop their true potential." When the others heard that wish, they felt surprised, as they did not think that Goku would ask for something like that, not to mention that they did not understand the meaning of that wish.
On the other hand, Goku's wish would be heard by the dragon, who would only stare at him in order to process the wish he had made.
Okay, I can fulfill that to a certain extent, but you must be aware that I can't guarantee that they will be safe from danger. That will depend more on them than on me. Even so, you'll want me to do it.
Of course I will, since after all, this would be meaningless if everything was solved so easily. The risk is inevitable.
All right, boy. I'll fulfill your wish, just as you asked.
After saying that, the dragon's eyes would glow, a clear indication that he had fulfilled Goku's wish.
Very well. Now your wish is fulfilled, so it's time for me to leave.
After saying that, Shenlong would disappear as the sky returned to normal, and the spheres went back to scattering around the world again. After that, the others would gather to decide what they would do next, for now that the spheres had scattered, it no longer made sense to stay in that desert. Goku already knew what he would do, since he had planned to go to Master Roshi to improve his skills, especially to master the Ultra Instinct, since there was no one better at that point in history to teach him the concept of that technique. On the other hand, Bulma had thought of returning to the city together with Yamcha, since now that she had been able to meet him, she wanted to be by his side. However, this time Yamcha would think twice, since he had not forgotten that fight he had with Goku, where he discovered that there were levels of power that were beyond his imagination. For that very reason, he would make the decision to go with Goku to train as well, as he knew he had to prepare himself for whatever was to come in the future. Bulma, I'd like to go with you back to the city, but I hope you understand that I can't stand idly by while there are still unknown dangers out there. If I'm not strong enough to defend myself, how could I protect you or the others? I guess you're right, but it's still a pity you can't come with us to the city. Still, I promise I'll come back after my training. In that case, I'll wait patiently for your return. After having that last talk, everyone would go on their respective ways in order to train to become stronger. Goku would take Yamcha in the Flying Cloud, with which they would easily reach Master Roshi. As soon as they reached the place, the two would meet him and ask him to train them. However, Goku would ask Master Roshi for something special for his training, which was to teach him how to let his body move without thinking. At first, Master Roshi would be surprised by his request, as he did not expect someone as young as Goku to know such complex movements. However, he would end up accepting that, because he noticed Goku's great determination to master such a thing. In that way, both Goku and Yamcha would be taken on as his disciples, just as Master Roshi had originally done. However, in exchange for that, they would have to complete Master Roshi's request, which was to bring a girl to the island. But shortly after that, another of Goku's acquaintances was approaching Master Roshi's island as well, being a great companion of Goku. That person was none other than Krillin, who had taken it upon himself to cross the sea in order to become a disciple of Master Roshi. At first, Goku would be excited to see the friend with whom he had shared many adventures, as he was very fond of him. Although on the other hand, Krillin would not understand why Goku looked at him that way, since he barely knew him. They would have some differences, but in the end, they would manage to get along so they could train with Master Roshi. During this point in the story, they would meet Lunch, who would also join them on their journey. The training of Goku and the others would be more effective under the influence of Master Roshi, but above all because of the presence of Goku, who, being more powerful than the others, was very useful for the others to become stronger in combat. But most importantly, the Master helped to reinforce Goku's knowledge of how to train his spirit and also his mind. These teachings had been the last thing his master had shown him during the Tournament of Power, so now that he had the time to train them properly, he would be able to progress with the handling of the Ultra Instinct. The training would be just as heavy for Krillin and Yamcha, who were also doing various jobs to make up for what they lacked. Not to mention facing Goku on several occasions to exponentially improve their fighting skills. In fact, during their arduous training, Krillin would also witness the great strength of Goku, who had demonstrated that he could transform and increase his strength even more. This training process would actually become more and more effective as the weeks went by, and it seemed that everyone was advancing rapidly. Even Master Roshi himself was getting stronger. since by practicing the concept of the Ultra Instinct technique with Goku on a constant basis, he was improving his understanding of that fighting style, and thus his body was also getting stronger. Although he was clearly far from mastering that technique, at least he was progressing along with the rest. Everything would progress normally until the first martial arts tournament, where everyone would participate to test their skills. Although clearly at this point they were stronger than in the original story, since the constant confrontations with Goku and the knowledge of Master Roshi had served them well. For this reason, the fights of the first tournament would be quite easy for them, and they would have no problem defeating each of the opponents. It should be noted that Master Roshi had also decided to participate in order to make sure that his disciples had learned well. Although, so that they would not have any kind of consideration towards him, he would disguise himself and participate under the name of Jackie Chun. Only that way would his students take him as someone different and they could fight against him with everything they had. Things would get interesting when they faced each other, as they would test what they had learned during their training together and show who was the best. Yamcha would be the one to face Master Roshi during the tournament, just like in the original story. This time, Yamcha would prove to be more powerful and with a great combat ability, because by training with someone as strong as Goku and someone as wise as Master Roshi, his skills had improved much more than expected. Their battle would be quite spectacular, as his great reaction to attacks and use of attacks was quite striking. However, even with that in mind, the result would be the same, since Master Roshi, having a better knowledge of the complex movements that Goku used, would have a great advantage over Yamcha's power. In the next fight, it would be Krillin who would face the Master, so he had to make an effort to keep up with him in the fight. Like Yamcha, he would demonstrate the progress of his training during his fight with Master Roshi, even using the Kamehameha to try to win. But despite his great effort and skill during the fight, he would also be defeated by Master Roshi, since his knowledge of combat was still a great advantage over his disciples, who still lacked the experience to learn to use their instinct instead of just power in a fight. After that, they would move on to the final showdown, dealing with Goku versus Master Roshi. Both were the most familiar with the concept of Ultra Instinct, as well as the complex moves that had to be performed. For this reason, Goku was eager to begin the fight, because now he would test what he had learned against his master. At that moment, the two would be on the fighting arena, taking their respective positions in order to properly start the fight. At this point in the story, Goku already knew the identity of Master Roshi, but it was the ideal moment to find out who had better control of the concept of Ultra Instinct, and if Goku had really improved beyond the first time he had learned it from his master.